Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to as well. Today, we're going to be talking about some books. If you're new here, hi, my name is Francesca. I make vlogs, hauls, routines, and everything in between. If you like any of that stuff, you should just go ahead and hit subscribe. Okay guys, so a little backstory here. I am very new to the whole reviewing books thing. I had like a college level reading level in the 6th grade, and it feels like once college happened, my reading just like disappeared. I had not read a full book outside of like self-help books in probably like 3 or so years. Like, I genuinely have not read in that long. It was something that I had made a goal for this summer for me to read a book, a fiction book, something that I felt like I would enjoy, and I ended up reading 5. So we're gonna talk about these books. I'm gonna rate them. I got all of my book recommendations from either Booktok or Booktube, so there you go. I want to start off with the series that I am currently reading. This particular series has 3 books, and I'm currently reading the 3rd one, but I read the first 2 this summer and the month of August. So the first book would be A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I'm gonna put the photo for the book up here. I did not have the book with me because my friend Eli actually borrowed it. But basically, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is about this girl, Pip. And she pretty much is working to find out what happened to these 2 kids in her hometown. Basically, there was a missing person, and there was a person who ends up having some other complications. They intertwine in paths, and she's trying to figure out the mystery of what really happened. It was cool reading this book because the people who she's investigating are my age, but it's based in like current times. I think it's like 2020, 2019. So it was really cool kind of reading it. It made me feel a little old because she saw them as older people, but it was cool to see. The book reads really well. The pace is good. There's a bunch of shocking surprises. I definitely did not expect for it to go in the direction that it went, but it was really good. I feel like the book paced itself well. The second book in the series is Good Girl, Bad Blood. This is still involving the main character, Pip. She pretty much now is having to help out one of her closest friends because his brother goes missing. This one, I will say, it started kind of slow for me compared to the other one, and it may have been because I'm already introduced to the characters and kind of having that pace of like character development in a sense, more like about her emotions, more about her as a person. I was a little like smooth sailing with that. I will say both of these books have a little bit of romance in it. It is not the main theme. I am not a romance girly. I am not big on it. But they keep it really subtle and keep to the story. So she's trying to solve the mystery of her best friend's missing brother. And it's interesting too because at this point she actually has the podcast. And she's kind of dealing with the process and working through figuring that out by also like working through trolls and the internet and like all these other things. This was pretty good. It was slow at first, but once it started getting good, it got good. Really enjoyed this. I am currently working on the 3rd book in that trilogy. The next books that I read was Where the Crawdad Sings. And so, of course, this book was turned into a motion picture, and I started reading this book at the beginning of the month because that's actually when the movie came out. This book was really good. This was very akin to something that I would have read when I was in high school. It was very on that level. Definitely a little bit of romance, a little bit of mystery. Basically, there's this girl who lives in like a marsh area. Her family has a lot of different troubles, and she ends up kind of sort of getting abandoned at this marsh. And it talks about her as she's growing up, some of the people who she interacts with, some of the guys she interacts with from the town, how that works out, how that grows, and what ends up happening in that particular situation. Definitely, I think that I knew that this was going to be somewhat of a crime drama. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, but I knew that something was going to happen. But it was also cool to kind of learn her upbringing and go through the process. This is a very, very descriptive book. It's also, I think, the only book that I read that hit 400 pages. It didn't hit quite 400, it's 368. So this is the longer of the books that I read. I really like this. I would definitely say that I rate this a 9 out of 10. It's something I would read again. Oh, the first 2 books, I would rate the first one an 8.5 out of 10. I'd rate the second one an 8 out of 10 just because it was a little bit slower. But this, I would rate a 9 out of 10. The next book that I read was I Am Not a Serial Killer. Okay, I saw a TikTok and I saw a couple of TikToks and they're like, this is so good. You're gonna enjoy this so much. If you're into like true crime, all that kind of stuff, read this book. I'm gonna stop you right there. Okay, TikTok? Not really the best thing to say to someone who's into true crime. I enjoyed this book. I will say that. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It is definitely interestingly written. The words are super easy. The writer's super well paced so that it's easier to read. But there is a huge, giant twist to this book that I think takes it out of the genre of like crime and pulls it into more fantasy. And I love Harry Potter. I love Lord of the Rings. I love kind of the building of like worlds where it's fantasy, but when it comes to like vampires or warlocks or small things like that, like occult things, I am not a big fan, okay? I'm not gonna ruin like how this goes about or like what ends up happening in the book, but pretty much there is a serial killer that's going around in this small town, and the main character is kind of obsessed with death. He's a little bit of a sociopath, and he tries to start finding out what's going on. So this book was really good. Don't like the fantasy twist, but I did really like how well written it was. I feel like the author really like did research about sociopathy and kind of profiling. So for me as a profiler, I did enjoy that aspect, but I feel like you gotta warn people that this gets a little fantasy. I would give this a 7 out of 10. It was great until it got to the fantasy part. The last book that I read this month, or the summer because I just started reading, was We Were Liars. Now, let me tell you something, right? When I first started reading this book, I was like, I hate this. Because it does like this kind of prose thing where it's like, we are this, we are that, we are this, we are that, we are the Sinclairs. And I'm like, okay, like I get it, I understand. You are the Sinclairs. So this book goes in depth to one of the Sinclairs. It kind of talks about a family and kind of these kids that go to their family's island every summer, and the experiences that they have during that time period. The main character has an accident at some point in time. We don't know for a very long time what that accident is, and she does not get to go to the island as much anymore, and then she gets to come back, and that's kind of where the book gets into the meat of it, is her coming back to this island and really trying to unearth and discover what happened to her, and how this accident occurred and what the accident was. It was really interesting because I felt very in the dark during this entire time, and the title We Were Liars was very, I don't want to say it was deceiving, it was just, it kind of like pushes you in a way of thinking that confuses you when you get to the twist at the end. I think that this was really good. I read this book all in one sitting. I read this book on my way to Florida, and I did not put it down. I went straight through it. I enjoyed every second of it. I was doing my little gasps and my and oop and while I was driving. I give this a 10 out of 10. I really did not like it in the beginning, but I give it a 10 out of 10. It also has these cute little like fairy tale things going on. Like they do Dearest Salt in here. You know, all those stories where it's like the king had 3 daughters. They bring those up a lot in here. Very good book. 10 out of 10. So of course I do not have a Good Girl's Guide to Murder physically with me, but these are the books that I read in the month of August. Overall, I would say I enjoyed We Were Liars the most. I would say that Where the Crawdad Sings is probably the most well written, and I'm excited to explore the other books for Good Girl's Guide, Where We Were Liars, and I Am Not a Serial Killer. Apparently I Am Not a Serial Killer is a trilogy, so I'm going to look for the other books in that. And then of course the author for We Were Liars, E. Lockhart, she has some other books as well. So I think this is great because it definitely gave me somewhere to grow and some other options to read. I'm so excited to be reading again. If you guys have any book recommendations, just comment them down below. I will gladly take a peek at it. Like I said, I am not a romance girly. I like action, drama, adventure, and most of all, murder mysteries. Those are like my favorite types of books, but I will take suggestions. I am going to be going to Barnes & Noble soon and stocking up for the month of September. I hope you guys thoroughly enjoyed this video. Let me know if you read any of these books, and if so, what your ratings were for each book. Yeah, and if you're new here, make sure that you subscribe, because I do want to start really incorporating this into my content. I love books, and I'm glad to be reading again. And as always, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.